9 October, about 12:35. Can you get your limit of squirrels every time you go hunting in the woods? The answer's no. It's going to depend. There could be a lot of squirrels, general population, but you still might not get around enough squirrels to get a limit. They could be bunched up and you just never found the bunch. They could be scattered and you might find enough to get your limit. You may not. You might miss a squirrel. Using scoped rifles, you got to watch obstructions. Now, I'm showing shots with this trigger cam. Keep in mind, I'm not showing you everything that's taking place when I've got that gun pointed up at a squirrel. I'm trimming off some of the fat, okay? I don't want to make the video overly long, and you all might think it's boring. There's a lot of squirrels where there are obstructions. There's a lot of squirrels, they're not turned right. And you have to wait. And then when he does move, you've got to consider, is the obstruction, do you have another obstruction? There's a lot of squirrels in the woods that can be missed because of obstructions. Running a scope with a parallax fixed at 50, you know what that means, right? An obstruction that's 5 yards from you, you may not see in that scope because of the parallax setting. It's happened to me. I've been in the woods a lot of mornings, boys, and a lot of evenings. I would never walk in the woods and guarantee I would kill my limit of squirrels here in Tennessee, ever. Do I wish sometimes? Most certainly. There's nobody that can show up here in my yard, and if they told me, well, I'm going to go hunting in the morning and I'll be back here by 10 and I'm going to go kill 10. There's nobody around here that could come into my yard and tell me that, and I would actually say, yeah, well, they're going to bring back 10 squirrels. Not even myself. We got deer around here too, Same would apply to deer. You don't know what's going to happen when you go in the woods, and you can scare game too, You scare squirrels. They can be scared. You might, you got to get close enough to them where you can see them with leaves on. Well, that's not a guarantee either. Some squirrels move through the woods and they never stop to parade around where you even get a shot at them. You go in the woods, I've been in the woods a lot of mornings and seen 40 squirrels. 30 squirrels, 20 squirrels. I've seen 60 squirrels on a morning's hunt. If there was no bag limit, could I have killed all of them squirrels? The answer is no. Some of them were out of range. I could see the leaves, the limbs are shaking. I could see them on main limbs running at distance. But they never got close to my path. Yeah, you got this one person, now he's trying to play this down, like, oh yeah, there's lots of squirrels. And that's just going to guarantee you success. No, it doesn't guarantee you success. It doesn't guarantee me success. You still have to get in the right position. Shooting squirrels with anything, even an air rifle with a moderator, the squirrels can catch on to you and they can spot you. Believe it or not, sometimes when you're shooting squirrels, you want to get the best viewing to a tree. You know what that means? It's like a deer. If you get in a place where you can see a deer real good, you know what that means? He can see you real good. Some people are tempted to do that, and I've been guilty of that. I made a comment in a video yesterday where I went and hid. I purposely had limited view because I knew when that gun started going off, those things would spot me if I would have got in a cleaner place and could have seen full view of the tree. I opted not to do that, and it paid off. Yeah, some squirrels are easier to harvest than others. Some mornings, some afternoons, depending on the weather. I don't know what causes all the squirrel behavior exactly. Sometimes it's like they're begging to be shot. And then there's times you go to the woods and a squirrel that's 60 yards away from you is hightailing it, and you've not made much noise at all. There's no rhyming reason sometimes for how they behave, why they behave. But there's no guarantees. But the only guarantee I could tell you is if I left the house and said, well, I'll be back when I've got 10 squirrels, well, that might be that morning, that might be at the end of that day, or I may have to spend the night in the woods and finish a bag limit the next morning or the next day. There's no guarantees. You got to drive that rifle scope around in them tree limbs too. You got to sort of understand a squirrel's movement a little bit. Almost like you're trying to read his mind, like, okay, is he crossing into the next tree or not? Time can be of the essence too, to get in a position to get set up for a well-balanced shot. You know, when you're out in the wild, now it's tricky around here. You know, you got some slope ground, but you've got tree roots, rocks, sticks and branches and briars. You've got tree limbs that can hang around a tree you're trying to take rest on that can be a hindrance, block your view. And you get all set up, and then the squirrel moves. It may go into the next tree and start eating, and then you're like, oh, I can't see him no more. Then you got to do what? So it's an ever-changing environment out there. It can change quick. You can get into a position on a squirrel, and then the squirrel can move on you, or the pack can move on you. And then they can come down the tree and get on the ground, and you can't see them, and they're going to bury, and you have to. You're thinking, oh, they'll come back, or the squirrel will come. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they go find another tree, or they just take off and go climb in a hole somewhere, or whatever. Not every year has Tennessee had a lot of damn squirrels either. Some years are better than others. We had a big walnut crop in the middle part of this state. I've actually had people, I've talked to people personally that didn't have squirrels in the eastern part of this state, and we had plenty, and vice versa. Same goes for Kentucky. Kentucky didn't have hardly any squirrels based on some of the hunters I was talking to, and we had plenty down here. We've had some better years here. I can think of a couple of years, but not as many people here squirrel hunt as used to. That helps. Other than a few dog hunters, there's a few opening weekend, opening morning, late summer, they'll hunt and throw their shotgun in the corner, and that's it. That's it. They never go back till the next year at that time. And spring hunting squirrels here, you know, we got this spring season. Very few people hunt during spring. You can't run a dog during that time of the year. There's too many leaves on the trees. And turkey season is open part of that time. Some people turkey hunt, and they don't squirrel hunt. And then it starts getting hotter, and a lot of people won't hunt. Even the ones that like to hunt won't hunt when it gets hotter in the first 2 weeks of June when the season's open in the springtime. So yeah, there's some mornings you'll be able to go out and they'll be easier to get. They'll be in places in certain trees that are easier to see. They'll be closer to you. Won't be as hard to shoot. It won't be as spooky. They get spooky shooting them with 22 long rifle subsonics too, okay? Now I'm going to give you something to think about here because I've been thinking a whole lot about this. One thing you never hear with an HM2 rifle, when you shoot it, you never hear the bullet sing when you shoot through the trees. I've never heard an HM2 bullet sing. Well, can a squirrel hear it sing? You shoot a 22 subsonic up through a tree, you might hear the bullet sing. What does that do to a squirrel, reckon? You see, the rapport of the 17 HM2 covers that bullet singing. Unlike a 22 long rifle. That bullet singing can cause a squirrel to go ape shit. And this may be why gray squirrels generally with a 22 long rifle, as long as you don't miss, you're in pretty good shape. But when you miss one, you know what that can generally do, right? It'll cut into your harvest out of that tree, be it 1 squirrel, 5 or 6 or 10. So what does it do? When that bullet hits that squirrel, it slows it down, don't it? So it probably don't sing too much, does it? You got that thud, pop, whatever you want to call it. I've shot a lot of squirrels with subsonic ammunition, CCI especially. That's what that old head shoots I got likes. About 1,050 out into the barrel. But you don't hear no HM2 sing and you don't hear no HMR sing. But those guns do pop louder. But they don't seem to be too, I've hunted leaves. I've not hunted leaves on much with the HMR a little bit. I hunted mostly leaves off. Done a lot of leaves on hunting with an HM2. The actual rapport of the gun doesn't seem to make the squirrels too nervous. But don't miss. Because when you miss that squirrel, you know, he starts crossing out. You ever notice the sound a squirrel makes when they cross out? They make a swish sound. It's almost like they intentionally do it. A fox squirrel is bad at doing that too. It's almost like they know how to shake the limb to make a warning sound, to alert the rest. They just don't cross out. They cross out sort of funny where they make the limb do something that makes that swish sound. And I believe that's part of their instinct. Well, anyway, that's going to conclude the video. I hope everybody has a nice day.